Am I audible?
Yeah, good afternoon, Dr. Das,
Okay.
Professor Dipen
Yeah.
Das.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Sir. Oh, so this is our second session of today's program. In this session, we've invited Professor Prakash, who is the Faculty of Law in the University of Jodhpur. He will be delivering his presentation on environmentalism and governance. And before his presentation, may I request Mailodi Devi, who is working as a research scholar in Tripura University, to moderate this session. Over to Mailodi Devi. Thank you. Mailodi Devi, madam. Mailodi Devi. Mailodi Devi. I'm requesting Mailodi Devi, madam. Mailodi Devi, madam, are you here?
She is
Okay, I think,
present.
yes. Mailodi Devi, please. I think she may have some technical issues. Let me introduce our speaker, sir. Dr. Om Prakash, teaches in the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities of National Law University, Jodhpur, since more than 20 years. Currently, he is also Executive Director of the Mahatma Gandhi Center for Peace and Civilizational Studies of the university. He teaches legal and contemporary Indian history, internationalism, and world system at the university. He has done his graduation and master's in modern history from Banaras Hindu University and master's in political science from IGNOU. He also holds MPhil degree from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Dr. Om Prakash, having his UGC NET in history, has done his doctorate from National Law University, Jodhpur. He has published more than 50 research papers and articles in national and international journals, conferences, proceedings, edited books, etc. He has also published a book titled Legacy of Partition in South Asia, Nation Building and Governance. He completed a major research project on nationalism financed by ICSSR during 2015 and 17. He received prestigious 2019 Dodhi Mohanto Memorial Social Science Research National Award of Sinamara College, Jorhat, University of Dibrugarh, Assam in January 2020. He received an international grant from Eurasian Foundation, Tokyo, Japan, to run a course on peace building in 2022. He is a life fellow of Indian History Congress, Indian Social Science Congress, Comparative Education Society of India, and World Council of Education. He is also a visiting faculty to a number of institutions. He delivered a number of great lectures at Jaipur, Jodhpur, Assam, and Ranchi. So, a warm welcome to our this technical session. Now over to you, Om Prakash sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dipen, and I'm really grateful to Dr. Dipen Das and Center for Ethnic Studies to providing me this opportunity to talk to the students, faculty, and delegates of the session. So I think before I proceed, let me just share my screen. I
Okay,
think
sir.
it's
I'm transferring this host to you so that you can share your screen.
sure, yeah. I think because screen is disabled, yeah.
Yeah. Now you can do it, sir. Yes, now you can do it, sir.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So can you see this screen?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
okay, right.
okay.
Um, so as you can see, the title of my lecture is about the environmental consciousness, environmentalism, governance, and ecological challenges in India. Um, so moving further, we will first trying to, yeah, okay. So naturally, I think we would like to first move away to the past, that how in India, since time immemorial, there was a environmental consciousness among the people. And this primarily we can see one of the artifact which has been discovered from the Indus civilization. This is a famous artifact called Matri Devi. And in this artifact, primarily, it shows that the tree is sprouting from the head of this deity. So, according to the historians, that shows that the nature worshipping and the nature loving nature of the people of the time. And somehow this tradition, which emanates in the past, continues till date. When we see, sorry, yeah, in the post Harappan period, the religion which the Vedic people, in fact, followed is called as anthropomorphism. So they have, in fact, personified various natural phenomena in the form of deities, like lightning for Indras, um, fire, water, Barun. So likewise, and this form of religion has been termed as anthropomorphism. So when we see in the Vedas, especially in the Atharvaveda and Rig Vedas, they talks about the various elements. Like in Atharvaveda, there are three elements: water, air, and herbs. Uh, so this very idea of elements we can find, the consciousness among the people. Even Upanishads talks about these five basic elements comprising earth, air, ether, water, and light. Today, we know about these five elements, what is called as the Kshitijal Pavak Gagan Samira Panch Tattvaya Adam Saya, the five elements primarily, which has created the matter. So, this very awareness and consciousness about these five elements, uh, we can find among in the ancient our ancestors, and that have been mentioned in the Athare Upanishad. Even the very depiction of Earth as a mother is very well known. And we note even Atharvaveda talks about that Mata Bhumi Putro Aham Prithibhya, means the earth is my mother and I am her son. So that sort of understanding we can find emanating from them. And even they have observed various natural hazards like rainfall, lightning, storm, drought, etc. So this sort of awareness we can find. Even this very idea of the sacred groves, which carries till date, it emanates from the ancient time. The worshipping of the sacred groves is very well known. And till date, I think it plays a very important role, in fact, into the cultural life of the people of India. So this primarily also coming out since the ancient time, and somehow it percolates till date. We note that in ancient time, cutting green trees was a punishable offense, and in fact, by various dharma shastras, which has given a very clear sanctions that for cutting the green trees there has to be penalty. There has to be, which are considered as an punishable offense. And even the worshipping of the trees, till date, in fact, is a well-known fact. It remains part of our cultural tradition, and it all emanates since the past itself. So when we see Rig Veda Mandal 9, it very clearly mentions about, if you can read this quote, that thousands and hundreds of years, if you want to enjoy the fruits and happiness of life, then take up systematic planting of the trees. So the very idea of afforestation or the planting, in fact, so much emphasized in the Rig Vedas, that primarily we have digged out, in this quote. Okay, yeah. Then even the various other quotes, in fact, in the Rig Vedas also very clearly talks about the food chain and how this food chain has to be protected, because otherwise this is going to destroy the earth. That sort of understanding coming out from the Upanishads. And we all know that Buddhism and Jainism, in fact, critique the killing of the animals and various sacrifices, which was very much part of the Brahmanism. So this non-aggressive attitude towards nature and flora and fauna, wildlife, etc., that primarily we can understand, we can see from the perspective of the resource use, in fact. Even we come across that the famous work Arthashastra by Kautilya, even this sanctions for the nature protection, and even it prescribes the cutting of the green trees as punishable offense. So that Kautilya clearly mentions, in his work. And the type of campaign which during the period of Ashok has done, as far as the plantation drive is concerned, it was a missionary activity on his part. That is also well known. In fact, we all know about this. Even hunting was banned during his time, especially after the Kalinga War, which brought him, tremendous transformation. And then from a, aggressive, violent person, he turns into a non-violent person. So that sort of things we come across. Even the work of Kalidas, there are actually two works, Meghdootam and Ritu Sanghar. These two works very beautifully depicts about the nature. In fact, sometime when Kalidas is being referred as Shakespeare of India, we discussed that this is a Eurocentric bias because Kalidas was a nature poet, while Shakespeare was a he was a poet related to the human nature. So there is no similarity between them. So what we come across here in the Meghdootam and Nityasamgar, the beautiful depiction of the nature, the movement of the clouds, the rainfall, the greeneries, the nature have been beautifully depicted in his works. That would not have been possible without a very serious awareness about the nature and so that I think primarily I would like to depict here. Now here this idea of sustainable development and resource use, we can get from Buddha and Gandhi. I think I would like to discuss here a short story about this, about the resource use. Sorry. So it was that in fact one of the Buddhist monk, he was being offered a new dress, and that time dress was just like a seat of cloths, like a bed sheet sort of, which can be wrapped around the body. So this monk, which was given this new dress in a ceremony, then after the ceremony, Gautam Buddha asked him that, can you please tell us that what you are going to do with your old cloth? So then this monk said that, am I visible? Can you see me? Hello? Hello? Am I visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So then when Buddha asked him what you are going to do with your old cloth, he said that I am going to use this as a bed sheet. So then he asked further, okay, then what you are going to do with your cloth which you were using as a bed sheet? And then he said, now I'm going to use that as a towel for cleaning our body after the bath. So then he asked, then what you will do with your previous towel? And he said that no, I'm going to use that for the purpose of cleaning the floor. And then what you will do with the previous cloth which we're using for cleaning the floor? Buddha asked. He said that now I'm going to use that as a wick in the candle which I use at night. So this very example was, can there be a better example of the sustainable development, right, than this, which we find coming from the Buddhist literature. Even you might have heard Gandhi talking about the sustainable development, that there is enough in the world for everyone's need, but not for the greed, not for the people's greed. So that is in fact true. That is the fundamental idea in sustainable development in context of the intergenerational justice, because you cannot just use every resource for your own, but you must care for the generations to come. That is the fundamental idea behind the sustainable development also. So these two concepts, these two figures, these two personality primarily especially emphasize on this very idea of sustainable development and resource use. Even in modern period, we have come across the veterinary hospitals, emerged that time, concern for the. So, so now when we come today on the issue of demography and environment, we are today 1.4 billion people. And roughly it is comprised 16% of the world population. So, but what is important to see that today population rise is not considered as a burden. I remember in 19 as the human resource. So in this context, what we come across that this Green India 2047 report talks about that the environmental cost in India exceeds 10% of the GDP, which is really very threatening, because if the environmental cost exceeds the 10% of the GDP, that means it will have a serious impact on the agricultural productivity, loss in timber value, degradation of the forest, and depletion of the water resources, etc. Even the pollution of the air, water, etc. So that is somehow quite threatening, and this is one of the area where, in fact, everyone have to be, concerned about and work for. Now, if we can move on the issue of environmentalism, I will not go into the definition, but in general, environmentalism is understood as where the people's movement plays an important role for the protection of the environment, for the protection of the nature, where peoples are involved into that. That is primarily called as environmentalism. So here, when we see since independence, when the British left India, they left a very poor and totally exploited India. So development was required, and due to which, while inaugurating the Bhakra Nangal Dam, Nehru famous quote that the dams are the temples of modern India. There is no doubt that these Bhakra Nangal Dam had the potential to convert, to make India food sufficient, and it brought green revolution. But the problem is that since then, how much displacement it has taken place, how much ecological refugee it has created. That is an important issue. And in this context,
Sir, sorry for interruption. I am just want to know one thing.
yeah,
The first page of your PPT is coming.
okay.
Only the first page.
So now you're not able to see that?
Only one. The first page is coming, sir.
No, I have shown this. can we just share it again?
The title of your presentation is coming here in the screen.
No, but I am moving almost some 7, 8, or 10, 10 slides. I mean, that is not being shown.
Yeah, I have not seen this here, sir.
So can we stop it here and do the sharing again?
Yes, you can, sir.
Yeah. So let me just try. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir. Now
Okay,
it's
right.
coming.
Yeah, right.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So this is environmentalism I was talking about here, that how much the dams have, it has a potential for development, but in this context, this famous development versus displacement debate has to be looked into, that those who advocate for the development and the role of the dams in development, they advocate that, but on the other hand, the environmentalists and the other people, they talk about the development at what cost. So if development is displacing the people, if it is creating the refugees, then can that development be, acceptable? Because there is a lack of equity into that. Because it creates refugees. Millions and millions of people are being converted into ecological refugees. Then what sort of development, in fact, they're talking about? So in that way, this whole development displacement debate moves on, which remains part of the issue of environmentalism, not only in India, but globally, in fact. Problem is that the bureaucrats sitting into their air-conditioned chamber, they hardly have any understanding about the ground reality, right? And in that way, the decisions are being taken, which greatly affects the environment. So in that context, this issue is important. We can just give an example in the Rihand Dam issue. The ecological refugees, they were in fact dislocated not one or uh, two times, but three times in fact. Thrice they had to be dislocated. Can we understand the type of agony which they have passed through, and completely, when you displace the people, they are losing their natural habitat and cultural pattern. Lot of things in fact are related to that. So I think I will move further into. Okay. Uh, can you see the this change of slide now? When I have just changed the slide.
Yes, sir. 10 million
Oh,
people are
yeah,
being
yeah. Okay, okay, okay. That's fine. Okay. So when we see the global scenario, almost 10 million people are being displaced, and even in India, in fact, there are millions of people. They are heavily dependent on environment, and out of which millions of people are being also displaced. So, so in that context, the prime issue is the forest resources, which on which they are dependent upon. And when they are being displaced, naturally, in fact, they are at the receiving end. So what are the important issues in environmentalism? When we have to look into the various issues in environmentalism in India, the first it is forest and its products. Because those who are the forest dwellers, those who are dependent on the forest, they badly need these, these forest products, because forest is like their mother. They cannot, survive without that. So any such act or legislation to debar them from using these forest products, that has a serious repercussions. And in this context, it has to be looked into. Land use, industrialization, and loss of agricultural land is another issue in environmentalism. Use of the chemical pesticides, which in fact leads to the degradation of land and water logging, exploitation of mineral resources, and big dams and displacement already we have just talked about. So, so in that way, how it is creating the industrial pollution and how the marine resources are being exploited, that is in fact some of the very fundamental issue. The recent disasters, environmental disasters, which the country has witnessed in case of the Kedarnath disaster, how many thousand people lost their life, that is still debatable. And the very recent, the Josimat, you know, issue is very, very fresh. How the entire region, in fact, is virtually sinking, and almost every house in that region has to face the cracks. And that's why the people are being, relocated somewhere else. So that is also creating, in fact, the refugees. I mean, these are the issues which is very, very clear reminder that we cannot interfere into the environment beyond a level, right? And there is a too much interference into the environment is causing all these disasters. That is something which is very important to look into. So, in this context, when we talk about environmentalism, the first thing which comes very fresh to the mind is the Chipko movement, or as it is called, the Hug the Tree movement, in fact. So, this Chipko movement, as you know, these are the three prominent figures. As you can see the photographs here, the Sundarlal Bahuguna, Gaura Devi, and Chandi Prasad Bhatt. They have been the leading figures of this Chipko movement. I think before I come to that, I think I would like to talk about another very important environmental movement which originates in the 18th century in Rajasthan, some 200-300 years earlier, in very vicinity of Jodhpur, where I am located, a place called Khejarli. So here, really, this was the first environmental movement of its kind in the world, where 300 people lost their lives um, for the purpose of protection of the trees. So this is the earliest instance of the Chipko movement in any part of the world, which the Khedarli has witnessed. And today also there is a memorial, um, celebrating this very famous incident. So, when we talk about this movement, 1973 in India, it starts from Uttarakhand, a village called Mandal village. And these were the leaders I have just talked about, Gaura Devi, Chandi Prasad, Sundarlal Bahuguna. And similarly, on this line, the movement also started in South India called Akipo movement. So these movements primarily were against the timber mafias, land grabbers, in fact. So due to this movement, they were not only able to drive these mafias out, but also the government come out with the legislations to protect the interest of the people and the forest. I think these are the team of Gaura Devi, right, which remains very instrumental into this Chipko movement. In the recent time, we have come across this Narmada Bachao Andolan. It's a very important environmental movement which got serious international attention, in fact. So, she is the most popular figure of this movement, Medha Patikar. In fact, how Medha Patikar linked with this movement is again, she was just a PhD student when she came to this place for her PhD work, and there, in fact, she got interacted with the local people and then took her cause. So, in that way, she became part of this movement. This is the famous Sardar Sarovar Dam, which is actually in the question as far as the Narmada Bachao Andolan is concerned. So, this is going to be the largest dam in the country. And this dam is primarily the issue behind this Narmada Bachao Andolan, construction of this dam. This is even going to be the larger than the Bhatranangal Dam, the largest in the country, in fact. So we can see some of the basic facts of the Sardar Sarovar project. This is the largest dam, going to be the largest dam in the country when completed. Still, in fact, it is in process of completion. And this is on Narmada River, and the states which are beneficiary are Gujarat, MP, Maharashtra, and Rajasthan. So its construction actually begins in 1987, and almost 30 large dams are proposed to be constructed. So that we can imagine that how big this dam is going to be. So when we see the Narmada Bachao Andolan, 1985, it was launched under the leadership of Medha Patikar. And some of the achievements which this movement has, earned was earlier this entire project was to be financed by World Bank. But the way the people were being displaced and the movement, brought attention to the international community. So due to which the World Bank, in fact, first sent this Bradford Moores Committee to take a view into this entire issue, that whether this project is really going to be as serious as far as the human rights violation is concerned. So Bradford Moores Committee, after taking a study, has given its report, which says that yes, this is going to be going to cause huge displacement and also huge environmental depletion is involved into. World Bank was still not sure, so they sent a second committee called Pamela Cox Committee, and Pamela Cox Committee also gave the similar, in fact, similar observation that this dam is going to be very serious from environmental and human dimensions, in fact. So then as a result, the World Bank withdrew from this project in 1993. And subsequently, in fact, some other foreign investors, they also withdrew by 2001. They also withdrew from this project. So that was the achievement of as far this Narmada Bachao Andolan is concerned. That was its achievement because it has put that much tremendous pressure on the government, on the World Bank, in fact, to withdraw from this project. That they will drone, but they will not move away because their region are being drawn and their habitat, everything is getting drawn. So this Harsa Satyagraha was a very famous incident which put, in fact, put pressure on the World Bank to withdraw from this project. And this is the image related to the same. Even at one point of time, the movement was able to convince the Supreme Court of India that no serious environmental study has been done. So there is need for having an environmental study. So due to which the Supreme Court has forced the government to halt the dam construction, and the height should not be more than 260 feet. But later on, the court ruled out that the project can continue and then proposed the height of 452 feet. So the problem is that the more and more height of the dam will be, more and more area it is going to submerge. So that is the issue, primarily involved into that. This is again another image related to these satyagrahas when the people's habitat were drawn, then they are doing this Jal Satyagraha. These are another image on the same. How it is creating the refugees, and when they are going to the cities, they're working as the laborers and completely, in fact, loses their alienation, their contact from their habitat, and just act as sometimes bonded laborers. And so that is the serious story as far as this dam construction is concerned. So when we see the impact of the large dams, well, I think there is no doubt that the Bhakra Nangal Dam brought green revolution. But the environmentalists says that how green was this green revolution? They say that this green revolution is like a watermelon, which is green from outside, but it's all red from inside, representing the environmental disaster which in fact it caused. That is true to a large extent because you see today, if you see in Punjab, there are several districts like Bhatinda and other region. They are called as the cancer districts because so much pesticides were used that it has caused cancer among the people. Almost every house you can find the cancer patients. And not only that, even the green revolution seriously depleted the lands because that much of huge quantity of water was used that it has brought salinization of the soil. Even the life of the dam, Bakranangal Dam, was short because it created huge siltation, and then so that's why the environmentalist says that how green was this green revolution, how much deforestation it has caused, the construction of the large dam it has caused. Not only that, even it causes the destruction of the flora and fauna. And when the dam contains the stagnant water, it creates naturally the disease, because stagnant water, can produce mosquitoes and a lot of other such. So aquatic animals, in fact, are seriously affected. Even this dam-induced seismicity is an important outcome, because when the large storage of water is being, kept, it creates immense pressure on the earth plates, and which can cause earthquakes. This already happened in India in case of Koyana Dam in Maharashtra. So due to Koyana Dam in Maharashtra, Maharashtra witnessed several earthquakes, like Latur and other regions had witnessed these earthquakes, which was the result of this dam-induced seismicity. So it can produce earthquake also. And ecological refugees, we have just talked about the way there's a loss of habitat. So that's why the famous writer Arundhati Roy, she terms these large dams as worse than the nuclear weapons. See, even the dam sites are the serious sites as far as the security is concerned. I mean, for example, if any terrorists are able to breach in Bhakranangal Dam, the entire North India is gone. It will be the region till the Mathura Vrindavan region will be under 7 feet of water. So naturally, the large dams are also very, security aspects are involved into that. Highly protected region they are, in fact. Coming to the environmental governance, which is again the central aspect of the today's talk. Whenever we talk about the environmental governance aspect, it contains the very idea of sustainable development, environmental management. Both the aspects has to be, subsumed together. So we note that the Stockholm Conference of 1972 was the first such effort from which the very idea of environmental governance emanates. And then naturally in India also, some efforts were done. So in that context, the Environmental Protection Act 1986 government passed, and then EIA, the Environmental Impact Assessment. Primarily, before going for any such developmental project, there has to be an EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment, how much this is going to affect the ecology of the region, environment of the region. So with that purpose, but the problem is that EIA is done very poorly. And even the EIA reports are being done without the site visit. So naturally, in fact, a lot of corruption is also involved into, into the same. And due to which, I think I will refer here this coal dam issue. In 2011, after the dam project was cleared, an independent assessment was done regarding this EIA. Then it was it was found that this dam submerged almost the farmland ranging from 37 to 80%. And livestock population also to be decreased from 52 to 60%. 6,000 people were to be displaced, and likewise, a lot of issues were there. So, if this sort of data would have really done honestly, then this dam would not have cleared. But despite that, this the coal dam project was cleared based upon a EIA assessment, and this is one of the example how the EIA is being done and how the mismanagement and corruption is primarily involved into the same. When we look into the directive principles of state policy, then it clearly says that states shall endeavor to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. All of us must be aware that now the environmental education in our kids' school curricula is a very welcome measure. Kids are being taught for the same environmental awareness. Then the Article 51A talks about that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for the living creature. So even the Forest Conservation Act 1980 gives elaborate provisions about the forest conservation and protection. Very recently, the National Environment Policy 2018, although it is yet to become an act, but it is in draft form, it also aims to bring, to increase our forest cover, almost 1/3, in fact, and for which it envisages for a public-private participation. Very emphasis is on the afforestation, in fact. Reducing the human-animal conflict and the climatic change, in fact, is again a very central issue into this act. So, but there are limitations of this policy also. In fact, it does not discuss in detail the contentious issue of the diversion of the forest land for mining and other purposes, which remains a contentious issue till date. And also, it does not address the issue of forest rights of forest dwelling tribal communities. So these are in fact some couple of issues which have not properly discussed in this environmental policy. Hopefully, when this draft can be amended and it comes to the form of the act, then these issues may be addressed. 2022, the government has passed this Forest Conservation Act, and by this act, primarily it aims to protect forests from deforestation, erosion, and degradation of the land, protect biodiversity and integrity, territory and individuality of the forest has to be protected. So that is the main central part of this Conservation Act 2022. The recent time, the government has also taken this Namami Gange program. This may be called as the extension of the Clean Ganga program, but the thing is that the mission for cleaning Ganga is going on since decades. But we have hardly seen any serious impact of the same. Thousands of the crores of the money has been siphoned off without actually getting a impact. But in the last several years, we have seen that this project really have brought out with some real impact which everyone can witness. And now the river is really getting cleaner, right? Primarily to tackle the pollution and rejuvenation of the river. The central part is this riverfront development program and the sewage treatment program, which is central part of this, which have really brought good dividend, and due to which we note that the impact can be seen, can be witnessed, in fact. Even in the recent initiative, the Green Skill Development Program were launched in 2018, which primarily aims to train 5.5 lakh workers in environment and forest sectors, primarily to make the awareness program and also to, in context of the best management, these workers are being, in fact, being trained. All of us are aware about this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and we all will agree that this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan prime aim is to eradicate open defecation and improve solid management. In fact, if I remember some 15-20 years earlier, if you travel by train, then the railway tracks were the places where you can find the human waste are being scattered. There have been several foreigners, they have been coming and they have written their memoirs. They have used the term like stinking India, or India sitting on a garbage bomb, in fact. So keeping in this backdrop, this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan has, to my understanding, has brought a tremendous change into the people's perspective, people's mindset for cleaner, right? Cleaner India, cleaner surroundings, in fact. And that is again a very important, because I think millions of toilets have been constructed throughout the country as part of the same. And several such activities, in fact, have been done. National Clean Air Program, again, it was launched 2019, which aims to reduce air pollution, and integrated command and control centers in smart cities, in fact, how to shift to CNG vehicles. They are central part of the achievements as far as these programs are concerned. This mission Lifestyle for Environment was also launched by the government, which primarily unveils to promote climate-friendly behavior. So what actually it means that certain energy saving, water saving, reduced use of single-use plastic, PET, you might have heard this term, PET plastic to be used. So sustainable food system, waste reduction, and adopting healthy lifestyle, e-waste handling. So these are some of the few of them out of the 75 lifestyle practices, which which has come as part of the campaign to bring awareness among the masses. What we can suggest that I think merely celebration of the Earth Day and Environmental Day is not enough, but some, serious participatory approach is required, in which the stakeholders have to be, in fact, involved into the decision making. I think I would like to refer here a Red Indian case. This belongs to United States. There, the government of United States was planning to construct a dam. And this has to be constructed in an area where the Red Indians have their habitat. So one of the anthropologists, he suggested to the government that why not you can take the suggestion of the Red Indian itself, these tribals itself, that how the dam, what is their feedback regarding the construction of this dam. So the government agreed. Then the type of feedback which Red Indians has given, which was really very amazing. Even the government never thought that due to their suggestions, even the cost of the construction of dams reduced, and even the dam was more and more sustainable in the nature from the every point of view. So sometimes when we think that the tribals are the tribals, they are the illiterate, what they can in fact uh, tell us what they can suggest us, but I think they contains a lot of traditional knowledge system, and that's why the stakeholders have to be involved into the decision making. Then this carbon footprinting concept is also equally significant, because when we undertake any activity, how much carbon footprinting, how dark the carbon footprinting we are able to create, that is something also important to look into here. So, for example, suppose a building is constructed. Due to the construction of this building, lot of it can have environmental repercussions. So that's why how much due to our activity, how much it is causing the damage to the environment, that actually comes in the very idea of the carbon footprinting. Then this mad race of the development versus sustainable development. So now people are aware about that I mean, nature has to be protected, but again, you see that the way the forests are being cleared and then concrete jungles are being developing. So this mad race of development, from this perspective, we can see that even after the COVID-19, post-COVID-19, when the world has witnessed this pandemic, how much the government is really taking, the steps to go for a green economy. Everyone is just looking for how much growth, how much percentage of growth you are going to have. But hardly the green economy remains central part of the agenda of the national governments. So that is significant to again note. Then what we note that the environmental impact assessment has to be done through some credible auditors, right? Because this auditors has to be credible so that they can give the actual report, actual ground situation. And an independent, environmental protection authority is also required, which could oversee about all these policies and projects. Polluter pay principle is there, but how much this principle is being enforced, that is going to be very, very significant. I think someone want to ask something. Rupya Jyoti Dash. You have raised the hand. You want to ask any question? I'm just about to sum up, conclude. So then we will have enough time for having an interaction, right? I think in 5-7 minutes, I think I'm going to sum up. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. Then there is going to have an effective water governance. I think I will not talk in detail because altogether this is a different but very much related issue. Effective use of the water, how water should be effectively. There is so much, in fact, rain, but how much we are actually able to utilize that. So it's all part of the water governance aspect. NGT, the National Green Tribunal, need more autonomy, in fact. I will just conclude by this, what is called as the butterfly effect. This butterfly effect primarily says that when a butterfly flutters its wing in one part of the globe, it will have some impact in other part of the globe. So environment is that much delicate that if anything happens, see, we have already seen the impact of the Ukrainian war, how much the Ukrainian war have affected each and every one of us. But our nature is more delicate than that. And this is what the butterfly effect says, that anything happens in any part of the globe which is causing damage to the nature, environment, other part of the globe also will have the impact. And this is what the reason behind this climatic change. This is what the reason behind the global warming, the phenomena like El Nino and La Nina happening. So I think with this, I will stop here so that we can have some time for interactions with the participants. Right. So I think anyone have any question, then you can ask.
My fellow participants are hereby requested to put in their queries, or if anybody is interested, can ask sir directly. I think somebody is writing, sir. In the meantime, can I put in a question, please?
Yeah, sure, please.
Sir, I believe the dams, construction of dams, the way the purpose is served and the reason for what they are constructed is to a great extent is known to the common man. But then again, there have been various mishaps of dam collapsing with I believe one particular dam, the Machu Dam in Gujarat. I think that was the biggest dam burst that ever happened in the world. Now, my query here is, sir, I mean, there are a lot of instances, even the Subansiri Dam project in the Northeast also has attracted a lot of, controversy and all. Isn't there any other alternative solution? Because a dam is a huge project, it hampers, it alters the very landscape on which it is being constructed. So do we really need to carry on with, construction of more dams? Or can we also look into alternatives or alternative solutions for water management and other things which a dam brings? Or is just the dam the only possible, solution right of now for us? Sir.
Yeah, the environmentalist says that the problem is not all types of dams. Problem is the large dam. Actually, if you see the World Commission of Dams criteria, any dam which height is above 20 meter will be considered as a large dam. So according to the environmentalists, it is these large dam which are the problem, because large catchment area is being covered as a result of them. And when the catchment area will increase, naturally, the threat is also going to be increased. Very recently in Ukraine, one of the Ukrainian dams were in fact blown out, and which almost subsumed the entire city, in fact. So that's why dams causes a lot of issue. So the alternate is the small check dams. The environmentalist says that instead of making the very big and large dam, if we can have some small check dams, which have been the trend since ancient time. If you see that during the modern period, even one of the Saka ruler, Rudradaman, he has created the dams, in fact, and the small dams have been the trend, in fact, since ancient time. So the same environmentalist also says that instead of having large dam, the small dams and some other alternate sources of the water management, if you can use the traditional knowledge system, then probably it can bring a better solutions for the same.
And also, sir, I feel that construction of dams is, I mean, these are massive projects, and along with the construction, the environmental effect that it has in the long run, plus again, the displacement of people that happens, the landscape that changes, the entire geography of the area is absolutely affected. And along with that, a lot of other socio-economic issues also come up, which immediately may not be seen or visible, but in the long run, you generally tend to get a glimpse of that, which again, to a certain extent, the system of which we all are a part of is, not very, I mean, they are capable. I do not doubt their capability, but the way in which things are managed is kind of, very, very alarming. I mean, 10 years, 20 years down the line, rehabilitation does not happen. Things don't work out. So, I mean,
Yeah,
there is a lot of skepticism about dams, sir.
That's right. You are very right. In fact, regarding this, Sardar Sarovar project, even several states have clearly said, they have raised their hands that we cannot rehabilitate these people. We don't have the land where we are going to rehabilitate these people. So then, when it is done, why you have started it? When already, when you have done the EIA, environmental impact assessment, why not there were concern regarding the rehabilitation? Because when the millions of the people are getting displaced, so these are the gray areas which is not properly taken care of. And that's why I referred about the EIA, the way EIA is being done. That is very, very casual in the nature. Yeah.
Yes. So, but again, if I mean, if the gray areas are not taken into consideration by the system, who will consider that? I mean, if the concerned authorities are not very stringent about that, who is going to do that? It is not. I mean, it is not something that people like us can do. We are just there to understand and study. But if stringent measures or stringent actions or stringent policies are not made in this regard, sir, then I mean, the coming years or whatever, the next centuries and all are going to be very, very difficult as it is.
Yeah, that's right. That is the reason when environmentalism, because when the government don't do their responsibility properly, then what the people can do, they will have to go for the movement. This is the reason when
Yes,
NBA,
exactly.
this is the reason when various environmental movement, if you see in China, there is a one of the largest dam they have constructed called Three Gorges Dam. And Three Gorges Dam is one of the largest in the world, but despite the fact it has an authoritarian regime, still people protested. So, because when there is no way out, when there is government is not listening to you, naturally the people will, take go for the movement. That is the reason we have environmentalism also, in fact. It's a global phenomenon due to that only, right?
Yes.
And it has its impact
Very
because,
true, very true.
yeah, it has its impact because due to the Narmada Bachao Andolan, a lot of changes have happened also among the legislations. New legislation has come out. Although apparently it looks that the project is still going on, SSP is being constructed, but no, changes have come out definitely, in fact. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Very true, sir. Thank you. Sir, there is another question from my esteemed colleague, Madam Daisy Rani Talukdar. She puts in a query as to how come, in spite of the EIA declaring dams as dangerous, the construction goes on in relation to the Subansiri that is happening again and again. Very true, very true. Sir.
Yeah, EIA, I think the problem of EIA is that the bureaucrats, those who are doing this, they hardly visit the actual site. And they are all doing it, they are preparing a report by sitting into the air-conditioned chambers. So that is one of the things. Also, as I said, that the element of corruption is also very much. So if any company or enterprise has to undertake a project, naturally, he won't mind, bribing, all these aspects, to the officials. So that is also somehow carelessness is also involved into that. So that's why I said that this requires a very important aspect of the governance. If the governance is effective, naturally these problems can be contained. But if the corruption is there, see there the role of the NGT comes. There the role of the autonomous agencies comes. In fact, National Green Tribunal and other autonomous agencies. In fact, their role comes in the picture on that scenario. If they are going to do that properly, then naturally that is going to give more and more teeth to the EIU also, right? So that is important to look into.
Very true, sir. I believe the nexus continues.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Any more queries, my esteemed colleagues? If anybody wants to ask, sir, directly, please, unmute yourselves and you can ask.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Sir, I have a question. That environmental awareness is very critical, and it's becoming aware of the impacts on Earth created by human activities, but it is leading to global warming as well. I was going through an article where I came across one question which says that will the remedies of climate change be worse than the disease? Will it drive more people into poverty with higher cost? So your take into it.
Yeah, I think after the end of the COVID-19, this debate has emerged that firstly, whether the COVID-19 was a result of the same environmental crisis or the climatic change.
Yes, sir.
So a group of the environmentalists say that yes, it is very much related with that because people even says that a lot of people's lifestyle thinking process have changed after COVID-19. But that is true, but we still know that it's like, again, going back to the same old way again. If you see, so somehow the climatic change, environmental crisis, the climatic change is not a matter of merely last 5-10 years. We are hearing this since the 80s itself, that how the ozone layer is getting depleted. This is going to cause, more and more insolation from the sun, and then this is going to cause more and more skin cancer, and the entire Earth's life is going to be decimated.
Yes, sir.
Uh, we are hearing, you all might be hearing this, but still, um, to what extent, the developed country, they are reluctant to take these measures.
Hello. Uh, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Please carry on.
Uh,
You're audible.
oh, okay, ma'am. I had another question, sir. So you were talking about the Chipko movement, and yesterday in the lecture by Dr. Kalata, I had the same question that
Oh,
the government is cutting the trees for road extensions and beautification and so on, but they are not planting at all. How can this issue be rectified or changed so that knowingly we don't harm the environment? Because in my area, the scene has become terrible, sir. It really feels bad when we see the roads without trees.
see, there are two ways. Firstly, when government have a responsibility, already I think I discussed in the National Environment Policy that the government plans for 1/3 of the green cover or the forest cover. Now, if government is involved into the destruction of the forest or the trees, I think that is their responsibility to go for the reforestation. If they are not doing it, what can be done? What can be the solution? I think the pressure has to be built up. Who can create that pressure? First, the I think judiciary, maybe a PIL can be filed into that, right?
Okay.
So that could be one of the. I think I have seen its impact because some of our students of the National Law University Jodhpur, they have filed a PIL for the heritage. In fact, there is a very old garden here in Jodhpur, Mandod Garden, and due to this PIL, the government was pressurized to give some 10 crore rupees to this for the development of. So I think that is quite possible. PIL could be a solution because generally the courts are again very pro to these environmental issues. Second could be the people's campaign, what we see as environmentalism. Role
Yes.
of the NGOs, in fact, could be into that, right? Some collaboration with the foreign NGOs in the same scenario. Um, so the Greta Thunberg, her role, in fact, globally, how actually she is campaigning. She is known for, so likewise, these sort of concerted efforts can bring the dividend, and that could bring force the government to do the needful, I think.
Yes. So we need to be more aware, I guess, to bring that Chipko movement again in the century, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We need more and more such environmental movements, in fact. Right?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I think we have a little more time. My colleague, Mr. Samir Pegu, puts in a query as to why do we refer to the Environmental Protection Act 1986 as an umbrella act?
Yeah, I think that was the result of the Stockholm Conference, because after the Stockholm Conference 1972, a global debate emerged that the entire planet is under the threat. So that's first time an government has brought out this effort to bring this act, by which 1986 Act, it tried to first delineate the forest in the zones like protected forest, or likewise how the common till which zone the common people can go. In fact, what could be the what about the forest dwellers' rights? In fact, that has somehow, in fact, also underlined in this act. But there were a lot of ambiguity in this act, like the forest dwellers communities' rights. In fact, that was not clearly, although it has mentioned, but it was not clearly delineated, right? That whether they could go to the core region or not, when they are totally dependent on the forest, about their use on the forest products. So due to which we note that there have been several conflict also between the tribal community and the local government, local officials, also in fact the forest guards, etc. So this somehow has brought out more and more clarity in the recent draft. And I have just underlined those two limitations also to 2018 Act. Still somehow, there is a lack of clarity regarding certain issues, land use, etc. So that is required to be, addressed. then probably if the act comes out, then I think it's going to be more and more inclusive in the nature. Right, yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? If anybody would like to ask directly? My dear colleagues, if anybody is interested in asking directly, please, the floor is yours. If any more queries are there. I think there are no more queries in the chat box, sir. So I think we can wind up the session here. I do not see any more questions or any more statements as of
Yeah,
such.
sure,
Uh,
sure.
Yes, and since there is no more query, I mean, we can wind up the session for the day. Thank you so much. I, on behalf of the organizing team and all my colleagues, fellow participants on this spectrum today, I would like to extend a heartiest thanks to Professor Om Prakash. Thank you so much, sir, for your entire discourse on a subject that most of us generally tend to ignore, and which I believe to a certain extent we do not have much of an idea regarding how dams, the construction of dams, the water bodies and governance, how the same can be connected to bring about some kind of an environmental understanding in the very system that we all are living in. It was a very, very interesting aspect that you had highlighted, citing a lot of examples from, different parts of the country. Thank you so much, sir. Looking forward to hearing more from you in the near future. With this, we wind up for the session. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you,
everybody.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sir.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much.